Thanks for joining us. For those of you that know me, I'm a huge 356 fan. Those of you that have visited PCA headquarters knows that there's a 356 1600S motor sitting outside of my office. Unfortunately, I don't own a 356. I will someday. I've traveled a lot. I look around the corners of buildings, I look in backyards, and unfortunately I haven't found a 356 barn find until about a couple of months ago. Actually, one of our PCA members, a longtime PCA member, a rather quiet PCA member, decided that he wanted to bring his 356 back to be known in the world. This car is about a mile from the high school that I went to, and it's about a mile from my house. And so I want to take you on this little adventure. I brought a friend with me as well, Louis Hauser from Karosserie Limited. We're about to go on this adventure together. Most barn find stories are, the barn find dream is that you find one and you take it home, you rebuild it, this, that, and the other. For me, it's just really about the story. I know this car that we're about to take a look at is quite valuable. It's not something that I'm going to be able to purchase, but I wanted to bring the owner together with you and hopefully have you help him figure out what's the next step for this car. So tell me what you think we're going to see.
Probably a car that's a lot better than what you described. I think it's going to end up being a pretty nice car.
Yeah, this car we know has been sitting in its current location for about 30 years. We know it was brought over from England. We know it's a right-hand drive. How rare is this car?
It's very rare. There's only several hundred made, I imagine. But I've only seen one other one myself. I had it in my shop for a brief time, and I sold it off for a friend. I went to Belgium.
It went to Belgium. So this car has, obviously it's rare for the U.S. market, but I'm sure it's going to have worldwide appeal because there are markets out there that would love to have a 356, but all their cars are right-hand drive, like Australia and England and such, and Japan. Right. That this car might be, pretty cool for them to own.
Oh yeah, definitely. It won't be hard to sell.
Wow. So here we go. A 356 barn find / garage find, 1 mile from my house. Can you believe it? Here we go. All right, Don. So I just told our viewers that, I'm a huge 356 fan, but tell us real briefly the story of how this car got here.
Well, I was stationed in the Air Force, and we were outside of Oxford over in the UK. And a friend of mine, I sort of were in the car business, and we were looking around for Porsches. And one Sunday, went through the local newspaper. Someone had a 58 coupe that they had restored. And we went to look at that, and the fellow that was restoring it was a policeman, but his friend had a huge barn. He was an F1 mechanic. So he had a lot of cars in this little barn. And the cabriolet that we have now also belonged to the policeman. And he wouldn't sell the coupe without selling the cab.
So it had to go as a pair.
So it had to go as a pair, and I really wanted the coupe because it was nice, it had all been redone. But we took the cab. It didn't have an engine in it, but he had a couple of engines with it. So he sent the engine home with us. And we stayed in the UK for about 3 years, and then when I came back, we shipped it back here. Unfortunately, not the coupe, just the cab.
And you tucked the car away, and you came out to a recent PCA social, and we got to chatting, and again, people in the club, especially the local club, know how I'm always looking for 356s and stories, and to hear that this car is tucked away so close to my house is pretty amazing. This car hasn't seen light in a long time.
No, only when the garage door goes up, but it has not been out it's been in here for 28 years in this garage.
28 years. Wow. All right, so we're going to lift the garage door, and we'll see what we can do. Hopefully we can roll it out, but here we go. Okay, Don, I don't think you've seen this side of the car in a long time.
I haven't. It was really surprising.
How do you feel?
Don't know. It's almost like losing a kid.
Yeah, I bet it's quite hard to kind of process all of this. But as we were moving the car, we heard your new car pull out. So I'm sure that's going to help you help make you feel better down the road.
Yeah, I think the transition will be easy.
Yeah.
But it's been a long while.
It's been a long while to get it this close to the outside elements. We didn't bring it all the way out just because there's this this threshold here that we weren't sure whether or not the rollers would go over it easily. So we just brought it out to the edge of the garage. I'm gonna bring Lewis back into the frame here, and Lewis, if you don't mind, let's just walk around the car and kind of tell me what you see. The obvious thing is the steering wheel's on the side that we're not
on the wrong
used to.
side. To start with.
It's on the right side, depending on what country you're from. But for here in the States, yes, it's on the wrong side. Were they made that way from the factory, or were they converted in the UK?
They were made that way.
They're made that way. So you said you've worked on one before. Are there like unavailable parts for this car because it's a right-hand drive? And
I would imagine that parts for the pedal cluster and all the workings for the controls are a little different, so they probably would be very difficult to find.
all right, so this is an early B. So because there's lots of stories out there on early Bs, and the 356 registry folks know Bs very well. If you don't mind, let's focus on sort of the unique things about this car first, and then we'll kind of talk about the overall condition and maybe your thoughts on what the future should be for this car.
I guess what I see is most of the interior is original. It looks like the dash may have been recovered. Very complete. It's funny to see the fuse block on the other side of the car where it usually isn't. This is an early part here that came off of a Pre-A because it has the dimple in the
arm.
yeah. Whereas the rest of them are like this, the later style. Other than the wheel being on that side, there's really not much different. When we open the trunk, it's usually next to the steering wheel, and it still is on the left side. So when you get out of the car, you have to come over here to open the trunk. And then the stars on the hood aren't working properly. Usually you push it up like this, and then you bring it down, and it'll park right about there. But those aren't functioning.
I'll hold this while you take a look around. So here's the engine tin. That was missing from the back.
Yep.
You had mentioned something about this box,
Yeah,
the battery box.
It's the battery cover, and it's made of like a pressed cardboard. It has steel reinforcements in there, and then there are some clips that come up and clip right onto that piece there.
And that's a pretty valuable piece on its own?
It has value. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a little torn up, but they're very difficult to find.
Yeah, okay.
And here we have a bunch of friends.
Oh,
That always happens.
a winter getaway for some of your friends. Now, do you see any indications of this car ever having been in an accident or anything?
If it was, it wasn't. It's not a bad hit. Yeah, it's nice and straight, and the headlight buckets are in good shape. But it has all the typical 356 rust that you would expect a car like this. The doors will need door bottoms because it's very rusty in there.
That's very typical of a
Oh yeah. Yep.
What about the suspension points?
They actually look pretty good. The torsion supports need to be replaced. Needs a floor pan and longitudinals, and it's going to need a lot of work. But it's still definitely worth restoring. And like I said, the rest of the body is pretty straight. It doesn't look like there's any accident damage. It looks like somebody caught the engine on this back piece. If you can see it, it's pretty torn up.
Oh, when they were putting it in?
Probably.
And you had said that this is probably a later top?
Yeah, it's been redone, recovered. That's what the color.
R738.
That's the color.
And that's the white?
I can look it up here in a minute. But it is, you can see that, see this edge here? That's the original white.
Okay.
That's ivory.
Ivory? Okay.
Yep. But it's definitely a good, restoration candidate.
Yeah, I've definitely seen other cars in worse condition that have been restored, and as you said, I think this is a worthwhile candidate for someone.
And the most important thing is that it hasn't been whacked real hard on either end. And so the rest of it is just dealing with the rust and doing the body work. And
now we did notice that, or we did ask Don about the engine. How much this engine is not the, as far as we know, not the original engine that came with a car. Is that a huge factor in the restoration point, or?
Probably not for this car. I mean, it's special, obviously, because of the right-hand drive. If it were like a Speedster or something like that,
Yeah.
it's more important for the engine to be matching if you want really top dollar for it. But some people think it's a big deal, some people don't. I mean,
Yeah.
it just depends on who wants the car.
All right. Well, we're going to take some more photos, have a couple more conversations with Don here, and then hopefully we'll give you an update on what happens with this car. And I hope that you enjoyed coming out and seeing us push this car out into the sunlight for the first time in 28 years.